what we're going to do is we are going to make this Darth Vader keep calm and use the Force. So I hear some people talking. Help needed? No? Okay. You don't have to say the picture that you use for the texture. That's fine. All right, so the two files that you need now are the Darth mask outline and the keep calm template. These are the two files that we have to have, okay? All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to use the template, and we're going to actually build our items on top of this template. Now, if you can take a second and make sure you pay attention to this part. Some students think they finish the entire design when they're utilizing a template because they see everything's there. Make sure you actually have 2 masks in the layers. You make sure you have 3 text layers. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we just have to, whenever you're utilizing a template to make sure you're making something off of it, I often will turn the background layer off to make sure I have everything that I need to create, okay? So I am going to use this template. So make sure, okay, awesome. We'll keep, awesome. Couple. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we do have to have this template open. So I'll give you a second because I see some of you are still getting it from the internet. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go and get the Darth Vader mask, and we're going to bring it over into this template. The first thing we're going to do on the template layer is we're going to make a new layer, and we are going to fill it with black. So the first thing we're going to do after you get your template open is if you look on the bottom of your layers palette, you're going to see there's different icons. And some of these icons we're going to go over later in the semester. They can be used to add texture, create things in black and white. So if you look next to the trash can, clicking the trash can allows you to delete a layer. But you can't delete the background layer because it has a lock on it. So next to the background layer is this thing that looks kind of like an upturned post-it note. That means you're creating a new layer. You'll also notice if you look up here that if you move your mouse over an icon in Photoshop and rest it there, it'll bring up this little help window that says this means create a new layer. So let's click on that, and now you're going to see we have a new layer. And what I'm going to call it, instead of layer 1, let's call it black background. So black background. So again, I'm going to do that again. So to make a new layer, you're going to be on your layers palette. You're going to go down to the bottom, and you see something that looks kind of like an upturned post-it note. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to label it so I can keep everything organized. I'm going to click, and I'm going to say black background. Okay? And I'm going to delete that because I don't need it. So if you ever need to delete a layer, you'll see that I have 2 empty black background layers because I did it twice to show you how to do it. I can select the layer I want to delete, and it's a light blue, and then I can hit on the trash can, and it says, do you want to delete this? Yes, I want to delete this. Trash can is right next to the post-it note. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say, to me it looks like a post-it note. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill that with black. If you go over to your tool palette, you can hit the letter G, as in gradient, and that will select your gradient. But it's right underneath the eraser. We want to go underneath the gradient and get the paint bucket tool. So again, you'll see there's a thing that looks like a pink eraser from like grade school. You can click on that gradient. It looks like a gradation between dark to a light white. You can click and hold on that up, and you can go to paint bucket right here. And whatever color is in your foreground, which is down here, unfortunately I can't show you anymore because the way IT has this set up. Whatever is on the top square is whatever color you're going to paint with. So if I want to change that, I can go to swatches and just click on black, because you can see it changes my foreground color down here. So I can just click on black, or you can just click on this black up here and it'll make it black. Now what this paint bucket does is kind of like Mario Paint. You guys are way too young to probably understand what that is, but okay, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like some of those other programs out there. And if I click on this empty layer with the black paint bucket, now I have a black background, which is what we want to design. Now you might be like, I can't see the template. Well, there's a couple things we can do about that. So again, what I did is I made the new layer. I went to behind the gradient, which is right here underneath the eraser. I went to the paint bucket. You can get the black in your foreground color by clicking here or in your swatches, either way. And then I'm going to the black background layer and clicking once, and now I have a black background. Now it might be tricky for you to kind of see what you're doing, so there are a couple ways you can go about adjusting things to make it easier for you when you're trying to create something off of a template, which is something you're going to be doing numerous times in this class. So if you look up here, I'll show you a couple ways you can do that. One way is if you look here, you can see that every layer has an opacity and a fill. And what that means is if it's 100% opacity and 100% fill, I'm seeing 100% of that color, 100% of that photo. If I adjust and lower the opacity, now I can see through my black background layer and see where my template is. And then when I'm done with the project, I can go back up here and fill it with the opacity, and then I can see what the actual design is going to be, my design is. The other way you have, if you don't want to do the opacity, is you can see there are these weird little icons in these squares next to your layer. What those are they're supposed to be eyeballs. If you look, it's kind of like an eyeball with a little bit of an eyebrow. If you click on that, that's called visibility. If there is an eyeball next to the layer, what that means is I can see it. So if I turn the eyeball off, the item is still there because you can see it in your layers, but I'm just turning the eyeball off, or the visibility of that item off, so I can see the template. Either way will work. I'm going to use the eyeball. The opacity way I also use. So I'm just going to click the eyeball off on the black background so I can see my template. See how big I need to make the mask and things like that, okay? So now we're going to move the mask over into our template, and we're going to adjust it and make it larger. Now, if I were doing this by myself, I would do it in a trickier way to select it. So we're going to try this method because I think it's what students might tend to do in the future as opposed to the tricky method. I'll teach you the little bit trickier method later. I don't want to make you too stressed out today. So let's go to the mask outline. Now, if the black background is the same as our other black background, we're not going to have a problem. You could use the magic wand and select all the white items, or I could deselect. I could select the black and then say select inverse, and then I can copy it, then I can paste it, and when I turn the black background on, nobody knows that I don't have black in here in all of it. So I think we'll do that actually. I changed my mind. We're going to do that. I was going to teach you something with an eraser. We're not going to do that. Alright, so we're going to do what we just did with the bulldog. Instead of selecting all the white areas, that'll be a little tricky. So let's go get that magic wand. It's the fourth tool down, or you can press the letter W. Makes your life easier. Selects it for you. Let's click once on that black background. Now right now we only have the black background selected, but we want to select the white portion of the Darth Vader helmet. So we can go up to select, menu inversed, or you can hold the shift key, the command key, and then the letter I, and now you have selected the inversed. So again, we're going to get the magic wand tool, W for wand, or if you don't see it, it is behind this quick selection tool. We're going to click once on the black background. You can go up to select inverse, or you can hit shift command I and it selects the inverse for you. Now I can either cut or copy this, and then I'm going to paste it. Again, some of our keyboards are old and they stick, so I can go up to edit, copy. Remember, it has to be the inverse. We want to see the marching ants around the white. And then we're going to go to our template, and we are going to paste it. Command V or edit paste. Now again, we're going to have two Darth Vader helmets on here. So what are some ways we could differentiate between these two? Say what? So I can call it like small helmet, top helmet, baby Darth, big Darth, whatever. So call it something to indicate that it's going to be the one on the top or the smaller one. So I'm going to say small Darth. Because again, you're going to keep your stuff organized and make your life a little bit easier. Okay? So again, after you've outlined it, select inverse. You're going to go up to edit copy. Then you're going to go to your template, edit paste, or command V as in Victor, and it's going to paste to your template. Now what we're going to do is we're going to need to line up the helmet, with where it's supposed to go. So how do I move this helmet? What tool do I have to use? The arrow, you're correct. So I'm going to use the arrow, and I'm just going to make sure I'm on the small Darth layer, and I'm going to pull it up here, and I'm going to put it here. Now mine's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty darn close. And if I want to see what I have, what I can do is I can click on the dark black background, and now this is so far what I have. This is everything that I've designed thus far. Because the black background, remember, it's like sheets on a bed. This is blocking me from seeing the template. So when I have my helmet where I want it to go, I can just click it back on.
It's not letting me move like the whole image.
Are you on the tiny helmet layer? Do you see any marching ants or a bounding box?
Yes.
Okay, if you want to get rid of the marching ants, hit Command D or go up to Select, Deselect, and then it should let you move it. Did it work? Awesome. Anyone else have any other questions? Yes.
The black background?
Yes.
I didn't make mine black.
Okay, do you have an empty layer? Did you hit that little post-it note by the trash can on the bottom of your layers palette, bottom right? Hit that little, it looks kind of like a post-it note, a square with a triangle.
Create new layer?
Yes.
Yeah, I did that. How do you turn it black?
Okay, so you're going to go get the paint bucket. On the left, if you hit the letter G as in gradient, you'll see a tool select in your tool palette. Does it look like a rectangle with colors or a paint bucket?
I got it.
Okay, and then do you have black on your foreground color on the bottom of your tool palette? Perfect. Just click in that empty area on that layer. Just hit OK to get the black. And then just click on that empty layer and it should go black. You don't want to click on the layer with the helmet though, just the one that has the weird the squares on it. And then it go black. Perfect. If you need to reorganize it, just drag the Darth above it. So it needs to be small Darth, black background. All right, so, we don't have to copy and paste the Darth helmet again. There is this wonderful feature in Photoshop that whatever layer you have selected, be it text, a photo, part of a photo, a graphic, if you have that layer selected, so if you look up here, I'll have that layer selected. If I hit Command J as in jump, sorry, now I have crisscross going in my head, but you probably don't know who they are. Command J, now you'll see it says small Darth copy. Well, I don't want it to be called small Darth copy, so now I'm going to say big Darth. And I'll do this again, big Darth. Now, how would I make this into a bigger Darth Vader? What would I have to do? Does anyone remember the menu or the hotkey that we use for the Bulldog? I'm going to transform it. Correct. Command T. So now I hit Command T. I can then move. If you want to move the Darth Vader, I just click inside the square, and then I'm just going to pull down, move them over. And I'm just going to pull down, move them over, and make them large. And I'll redo this. Don't worry. I just do it a little fast in the beginning. It looks like they manipulated it a little bit. They made them a little bit taller. And then I hit the return key. And then I'm going to show you how to fix this. But now I have a big Darth and a little Darth. So I'm going to hit Command J. So I have the small Darth selected. You can tell that layer is selected because it's a light blue. I'm going to hit Command J. And then it copies it. And you can see it calls it a copy in your layers. But I'm going to relabel it and call it Big Darth. So click on the text. I'm going to delete the word copy. Then I'm going to say Big Darth. And then I'm going to make him bigger. Now remember, I have to move him using the move arrow like you guys have said. So I'm going to click on the Big Darth layer. It's going to be light blue. Then I'm going to click, hold, and move that mask. And then I'm going to hit Command T, and I'm going to transform it and make it larger. So I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to hold the Shift key, move my arrow to the middle, or excuse me, the middle of the box in the corner, and you'll see it goes to a double-sided arrow. I'm going to hold the shift key down and adjust it proportionately. If I need to move him, you do not click on the bullseye. That's saying that's the center of your box. You click anywhere in the box, and then I can move it over. Then I, again, hold the shift key, pull down, move them over. And it looks like they manipulated it a little bit, so now I'm just going to pull over from the left. I'm going to pull down a little bit. And now he's pretty darn close to the size I need it. When you get it the size you need it, now you just hit the return key, it's return key, and then it's going to apply that transformation. If you want to check and see what you have so far, I can click on the eyeball, or the visibility of the black background layer, and this is so far what I have. But we're going to make some other adjustments. But this is where the step I need you at. I need you to have a big Darth face and a little Darth face. But do you see, like we talked about yesterday when we were talking about design, you don't always have to show the whole shape. Here you can see they did part of the shape, and then they lowered the opacity. So I'm going to show you how we do that. All right, so what we're going to do now is if you look at the template, you can see that when I turn off the big Darth, that on theirs, the big Darth is a lighter color, and the baby Darth is over the big Darth. So the way you can do that is, remember, the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the layers. If you look on your layers palette, I'll make it bigger. If it would let me make it bigger. The reason it's coming up that way is because the big Darth is over the baby Darth in the layers in the order. So to get the big Darth behind the baby Darth, I'm just going to click in the empty blue area, click, hold, and pull, and you're going to see how the line gets a little darker underneath the baby Darth. It means that now he's underneath the baby Darth. Now you're not really going to be able to see it super well at this point, but let's just make sure that the layer order is the small or baby Darth up top, the bigger Darth Vader underneath it, and then your black background layer. So baby Darth, big Darth, black background. Okay? So again, all you do is you click hold in the empty blue area, and you see now I have a fist, and it's like a closed fist, like he's pulling it. You see how now there's a little bit of a darker line underneath the baby Darth layer? That means it's going underneath him, and then let go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the opacity of the bigger Darth so we can kind of see through him like their design. Okay, so remember, if you have a question, let me know, but if you don't ask it, then I just keep going. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to be on the big Darth Vader layer, and we're going to lower the opacity. So if I go and I select the big Darth layer, it's a light blue, I can go up to opacity and I can pull it down, and now you can kind of start seeing through it like the other one. I can also go down to fill and adjust the fill and make it to where you can see through it as well. And then I can put the black background on, and now you can see that the baby Darth is popping off the page more because we can see 100% of the opacity, 100% of the fill or the color or whatever it is. And then if you look on the big Darth, I'll put mine about 50 and 50. Let's see what that looks like. 50. So I'm going to put mine at 50 and 50. 50, 50. All right. So anybody need me to repeat that? Sure. The only way it should delete is if you accidentally hit the delete key. So when you do it, just make sure you hit the return key when you apply the transformation. You can go back up to history. So if you go to Window History, say something happens and you want to go back in time, and Command Z, which is Edit Undo, just like in Microsoft Word. If you go up to Window History, you can then go back in time, and you can see it can show you to get you to where you have your bigger Darth. So if you go to Window History, if you go back in time, do you see your Darth Vader? Your bigger one? You can always just make them bigger again. Shift, remember, it's only after you hit Command T. You have to hit Command T to transform it, but you're right. You do want to hold the Shift key and then go to the corner. can do this opacity. So again, on the Darth Vader, you're going to go up to the opacity and fill and make it 50 and 50. And now, because we can't see 100% of it, now the other Vader has a different contrast. You know, it's white, whereas the other one is more where you can kind of see through it. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're just going to add the font. But let's save. It's good to save. So let's call it, we're going to go File, Save As. We're going to call it your first initial, last name, text 2. Alright, and so I'm going to say yes, keep the layers, Photoshop, save it, maximize compatibility, that's fine. Press OK, and now you should see at the top of your window it should say your first initial, last name, text 2. So save it as, File, Save As, first initial, last name, text 2. All right, so now we're just going to add the text, okay? So I'm going to turn the background layer off so I can see. Now, we're going to get into text and a lot more about text in the future, but this is the keep calm and use is what we call a sans serif font. There is no serif, no extra rectangle coming off the font. So what you're going to want to do is select your text tool. And if you look down here at the bottom, you can see I have a black square and a white square, and there's a double-sided arrow. So if you look up here, you can actually hit this double-sided arrow, and it switches between the white and the black. Or if you hit the letter X, it switches between the white and the black. We want to make sure we have white in your foreground. So with design, you could just come up here and click on white if you don't have white, and it'll be now in your foreground color. Whatever is your foreground color, which is the top square, is whatever color you would be painting with or making your text color. So let's go up to our font and let's find a big sans serif font. Okay, so it's not going to be 100% the same, but we want to get it kind of close. So a sans serif font. And then let's type keep calm. So I hit keep, I wrote keep, and then I did calm, and I hit return. That looks a little skinny. So I have keep calm. All right, now what do you notice? What kind of alignment are they using, and what kind of alignment does my text have? They have center, and I'm using left alignment. Okay, so what I can do is, so everybody has keep calm. So nobody's really speaking up, so I'm taking that as a yes. So what I can do is with my text tool, I can then highlight keep calm, and I can go up here in my options bar and change it to center alignment. And I'm going to highlight calm and center align it. And now I have a center aligned keep calm. Doesn't really look center aligned. Doesn't look good. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to select the text tool. I'm going to select the center alignment ahead of time and see if this works better. I think I need a little bit of a bigger font. That's a little skinny. So slightly thicker serif font. That one looks a little frilly. I'll try this one. So now I'm going to say keep, hit the return key, calm, and now it's center aligned. It looks better. Alright, so how can I make this font larger? There's two ways we could do it. You are correct. That's the easiest way. I can do Command T and transform it and drag it bigger. Man, I really chose a skinny font. I really need a bigger font. Did anyone have a successful, nice, big font? Okay. Ooh, okay. MS Reference Sans Serif looks good, and you said News Gothic. That looks better than what I had. The News Gothic and the MS Reference Sans Serif, they look like they work pretty well. A lot better than what I picked. So we're going to make it roughly the same size. So we're going to Command T it, and then we're just going to drag it. And since it's font, remember you can manipulate it and make it about the same size. Now since the fonts are a little bit different, they have different heights and widths for their font, but when you get it the size, roughly about that size, you can hit the return key, and then I can turn on my black background, and you can see this is so far what I have designed. Keep calm. So remember, you want to use the regular text tool. If you see the red means that you're using the horizontal type mask. So I appreciate you guys being patient. I know some of you might be like, I can't do this anymore. But as long as you have like a positive mindset and you just listen to what I'm saying, because you'll see, sometimes I say if you look at me do it the first time on the projector, sometimes that works out better for some people. And then I'll repeat it. But remember, it's perfectly fine to ask questions, okay? So now I'm going to save it because I just made some changes. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add and use. And you can see and use is in all caps, and it is just a little smaller. So I'm going to go and I'm going to get my text tool. I'm going to make sure I'm center aligned, that I have white up here in my options bar. And then I'm going to just say and use. And then I'm going to move it with my arrow to kind of get it over my and use. And I'm going to Command T like we've done pretty much all day. And I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to drag it over to make it wider. I'm going to drag it down to make it taller and up to make it taller. Now I was helping Jamal and he said, well, I want to bring my keep calm together. Remember, if you need to adjust the leading, you can highlight the text and you can go to your character and you can adjust, and my character just disappeared. Character. You can adjust your leading, which is right here. Instead, if I want it closer together, I can say 117, and it brings it closer together. Or I can say 115, and it brings it closer together. You can go up to Window, Character. And so if you do need to bring your keep calm together, highlight both lines. And remember, it's the leading I showed you at the beginning. You can go to the leading, and if it's on auto and you think it looks good, that's fine. But then if you change it, sometimes it'll scrunch it together. So since the text is big, mine was at the 115 range. So yours might be in the 100 range as well. So that's how you can bring it closer together. Now if you ever want to check, remember how much you have done on the template, just add the black background layer, and you can see this is how far I've gotten. Keep calm and use, and then we're going to do the force. So I'm going to save it, and you can go ahead and type and use the force if you want, and then we're going to change it. So I'm going to say the force. So now I'm going to click again with my text. I'm going to do capital letters, the force, and then I'm going to show you how we can change this to the other font. But I'm going to make sure everybody's in the same place yet. So that way we can use the force. Why do you think they put the force in that font? It's the Star Wars font. What else do you think it does to the design? Contrast. Add some contrast. Okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to hide Photoshop. One way you can hide Photoshop and several software is if you hit the Command H. I've hidden Photoshop. I can always just go back down here and click on Photoshop and it brings it back. But Command H hides Photoshop. Now I'm going to go to that file, that zip file that you downloaded, and I'm going to show you how we're going to install it. For me, it's on my jump drive in all of my little subfolders because I keep everything super duper organized. And there we go. So you're often going to have, since it's a zip file, it's going to come up with this little thing that looks like it has a zipper on it. And if you double click that zip file, it's going to open up this other folder. It's called Star Jedi. And in Star Jedi, you'll actually see it says .ttf. What that means is that's a text file. And if I double click on it, it's going to open it up in the font book. And all I have to do is say install font. Hopefully it lets me.
So if we're on here and we click that one,
It says .ttf.
right?
Uh-huh.
This one.
It downloads it, right? And then show in Finder. Perfect.
So just click it.
And then double click that icon that pops up, the .ttf file, or it might be zipped.
Okay.
Is it zipped?
Yeah.
Okay, double click on the zip. And then now click on that folder that just came up after the zip. And then go to the first folder. And then you'll see something that says .ttf. You can click on the one that says Star, I think it just says Star Jedi. Click on that one, double click it. And then on the bottom, just hit install font. And now when I go to Photoshop, I just have to remember it's called Star Jedi. So now I'm going to highlight it with the font, the character thing. 1 second, just let me do this real quick. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say, sometimes you have to restart the program, and it's there, Star Jedi. Shablamo. Uh-oh, it didn't come out right. It says the Fnurse. What? We might have to install all the fonts. Yeah, that might be it. Interesting. That didn't happen at home.
Installed all the fonts and it's
It still did that? It did just the N? Huh. Sneaksy. That's a problem. Okay, so it sounds like there might be a little bit of an issue. So I'm not going to count off if it says Fnurse. I'll understand that means force. So again, I'm going to show you how to install that font. And so I want you to install the font and then just make the Fnurse larger. So again, you went and you downloaded the folder or that file on the internet. So I'm going to try, try this one. So once you double click on that file, you're going to see it's going to look like a zip. It's going to look like this icon right here. I'm going to make it bigger. It looks like this. It has a zipper on it. So once you double click this, a folder should appear next to it that says Star Jedi. Okay, so you have to download this from that folder on my courses. Okay, and then you can double click Star Jedi, and within that are different subfolders that have the fonts in it. So double click the folder. You'll see that it has starjedi.ttf, starjohol.ttf. So I double click on that. Then you just hit install font on the bottom. Install font. There is a problem with the font validation. That's probably a problem. One minor problem was found. Well, yeah. So that's how you can install a font. So if you have like Photoshop or these programs on your computer at home and you find fonts on dafont.com that you want to utilize, you can download these fonts, and these fonts will also go into your Microsoft Word. So if you wanted to use Star Jedi in your Microsoft Word, you could as well. I'm going to move the force with the arrow over where the force is. Command T. I'm going to make it larger. I'm going to have it fill up that space just like the force. A little bit larger. And then I'm going to hit the return key. Now if I then turn on the black background, you just designed this. Okay? So you should be proud of yourself.